For SAS, they've been a part of the aviation industry for 3/4 of a century. In fact, with 75 years under their belt, you'd think their presence and status within this very industry should be very solid. Well, it isn't. I last covered the airline actually only a matter of weeks ago, and since then, there's been quite the turn for the worst, and I did just generally want to compile some of the latest updates into a video for you all. Beginning with, one would argue, the biggest news for the carrier, and that is the state of its finances and outlook. Early last week, the Swedish government made the firm, yet also worrying note that they would no longer be injecting new fresh capital into the carrier. An airline that has battled its way through the pandemic and is in the process of trying to move forward with SAS Forward, a plan to become more profitable and remain in the industry, with a key focus being on efficiency, especially with the use of sustainable fuel for its operations. Now, however, with the latest blow, it puts a dent into the plans involving SAS Forward and the general rebuild of the carrier. As you can probably imagine, without fresh capital, their woes are only set to continue, but worse so, not necessarily get better. And as we know repeatedly, it's not a position any airline wishes or wants to be in. In fact, if nothing gets better, and we only see the situation worsen, many questions have to be asked for if the carrier can survive. With no positive outlook and the government no longer aiming to be a long-term shareholder in the company, one that is valued at 21.8% currently, it's put the airline in a position that it doesn't want to be in. The government cited many reasons for the decision not to inject fresh capital. However, one of the biggest, and I think one of the ones that stood out the most, was the ongoing struggle by SAS themselves to make the plan outlined in SAS Forward a general reality. In fact, according to the government, it's been very much a failure so far. It isn't totally uncommon or out of the question, say, for capital to stop being put into certain airlines. We've seen it happen all before, and it will usually only come when a key shareholder no longer believes that injecting money is worth their while, and more importantly, that they'll be making it back. Essentially, they don't want to no longer put money in if they're only going to see losses and not enough being changed at the business. So, for example, the Swedish government injected close to $1 billion USD in the past, and now they no longer wish to be involved in the long term and will no longer be putting money in. In saying all that, they've said they will be trying to work something out to keep the airline going. How that fares, well, it remains to be seen. Days later, however, it was reported that 1,000 or so total SAS pilots could look to go on strike later this month, and it comes following further complications regarding pay, which is naturally harder to provide given the airline's extreme circumstances. And with the further falling of shares, once again following the announcement that the Swedish government would no longer be injecting fresh capital, and in addition, the note that the pilots could be going on strike, something that could be imminent towards the end of this month, it deals another blow to the carrier that has already had to reduce employees and reported severe losses throughout the pandemic. If you have any thoughts on the latest at Scandinavian Airlines, you know where you can leave it, and that is below in the comments. Of course, this is very much a developing situation at the carrier, and June is set to be a very, very important month for the airline, with potentially more being learned about capital, and in addition, we'll find out whether the strike will go ahead, further implicating the operations at the business, but just more generally, of course, the airline. Thank you very much for watching. Do take care, and I will see you tomorrow for another video here.